I didn't point out just a few months ago, you were a little critical of us using LNC revenues and even construed them as being a little overly optimistic, but yet they came in pretty accurate. Would you not agree?
Mr. Chairman, the concern that the administration expected is that, again, as I close, our view is that we should at all times be using the most conservative estimates. That was not the case at the time. As we've discussed since then, our objective is that as we conclude this process, that we use the most conservative revenue estimates. And I would hope the committee would do that.
Well, I just want to point out the excellent work that LSC's done, and we're blessed to have their abilities to forecast so accurately. So, other questions from the committee? Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question, Mr. King. With regards to baseline revenue estimates, how did the recent announcement of Amazon impact the estimates?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Olslager, the OVM revenue estimates do not have an explicit assumption about the Amazon relocation decision. Given the size and scope of the Ohio economy, given the size of state sales tax collections, it is our belief that those collections, while potentially significant, would be within a margin of error of the general revenue forecasting methodology that we apply.
Further questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director, for being here this morning. I want to talk a little bit about the Medicaid budget, and you talked about the caseload for managed care being lower than projected, I think is what you said. We heard testimony in the Finance Committee about how individuals during the redetermination process, and I heard you say that that was part of the reason for the reduction. We heard that during that process, there were individuals that were not getting their redetermination form or mailing it into the wrong place when they were returning it. There were all kinds of issues. The amount of postage had to be more than what they anticipated. They weren't putting all kinds of issues that were keeping individuals off the rolls that would have been on otherwise. And so I'm hoping that you can explain to us that the lowering of the number of individuals enrolled, while that may be through redetermination, I'm hoping you are not banking on individuals that should be on rolls simply not being there at the moment because the redetermination process did not work efficiently for those individuals, and in the future we will see that they will be back on rolls.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Driehaus, the estimation of caseload is always, on the Medicaid program, is always challenging. It has been particularly challenging over the last 3 years or so, given the significant policy change that has been underway in this area, both at the national level and here at the state level. Again, the 1-year suspension of the redetermination process, the changes in the economy, all add complication to these estimates. Clearly now, we have a better sense of redetermination than we did at the time in February. Clearly the redetermination, turning back on the redetermination process did not go as well as might have been hoped. As you're aware, there was a lawsuit filed, and in fact there's been a settlement that the Department of Medicaid reached to review and alter some of the procedures that have been used to conduct the redetermination that I think that I believe are intended to address some of the issues that were discussed around the time that we've begun to make the redeterminations. So with regard particularly to the redetermination, I think using the experience of the first several months, thinking about changes that are in place, put in place through that process by the department, and taking into account the terms of the settlement, Medicaid has made their best effort to gauge that and incorporate that information into these into these redetermination estimates and then into the caseload estimates generally. So it's a long way to say, I believe Medicaid feels that they have taken all those things into consideration and that this is their best estimate as to what's going to happen. But again, back to all the policy change and again, it's an economic projection. These are projections and they are subject to error.
Trustee,
I wonder if you can tell us, if you know this, as the redetermination process was taking place and there were these flaws in the system, and I hear you say they're trying to correct that, I wonder what the time frame is for them to capture the individuals that were trying to, reapply, get covered by Medicaid. I just don't have any sense of how long that would take, what that means to your figures and your estimates. Because if an individual was, part of this redetermination process and say they didn't put up postage on, how long does it take to recapture that person, I wonder, through Medicaid? And so, I guess you built in that time frame in these estimates. I just wonder what that calculation looks like. And, what the time frame is. Is it 2 months? Is it 6 months? I mean, what does that look like?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Driehaus, I do not have detailed knowledge of that process, but from what I generally understand, I guess I should say this. I think under the terms of the settlement, many of those folks were put back on. The department has begun a process of what's called passive enrollment, as opposed to passive re-enrollment as opposed to active re-enrollment by the individual. That the department now is more aggressively looking at information that they have in their possession to confirm that someone will continue to be eligible to keep them on. So that's only a partial answer, but I can't direct beyond that. I just don't have sufficient detailed information about how it works to answer any further.
Senator Swindell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Director King. I do appreciate your testimony. Just to kind of sort through this, and I'm referring to your testimony regarding the ending GRF balances. Your testimony that's reflected on page 7 and 8. It's my understanding that when we started out this process, you were estimating a fund balance at $970.4 million. Now you're expecting a fund balance of $1.150 million, which is more than $1 billion. Do you know how much is now, and in addition, you're subtracting from that we should keep a carryover of about 0.5% of the GRF, which amounts to my calculation of 157 or 158 million or so. Considering that carryover, that 0.5 carryover, based upon the Senate appropriations, is how much is available? Is there anything still available in the carryover?
Mr. Chairman.
Or has the Senate utilized all of that the $1.150 billion?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, of the $812 million, all three versions of the bill, as I mentioned, do provide for the disposition of those amounts, almost all those amounts. There was $10 million that was not provided for in the executive budget, and it was not provided for in any of the other versions as well. But doing it in slightly different ways, all three versions provide for the disposition of that $812 million.
So the $340 million that is still out there for disposition of some manner, plus another 10 million.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Skindle, that is right. Although I would hasten to add that, again, these are surplus amounts at the end of this fiscal year that I would characterize as one-time dollars that may not recur as we move into the future, and so we would urge caution in how they are deployed, hence our recommendation that they be used for the one-time expense of adjusting withholding tables or for deposit and budget stabilization.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have additional questions.
Proceed.
Thank you. Director King, you had mentioned, so in the your presentation about the revenues, the overall picture that you painted is that